Yeah,
Good
I think
morning.
the live streaming has started. Ketan, would you want to begin?
Yeah, we are live now. So today we have with us an all-rounder who needs no introduction, a gifted commentator. Team Masterstroke welcomes Mr. Charu Sharma, and
Thanks.
we all feel honored in your presence, sir.
That's it. Thank you. Let's go with it.
No. An alumnus of Mayo College, the St. Stephen's College, and the Davidson's College, Charu Sharma began competing in sporting events at a very young age. He's a six-time junior national springboard diving champion from 1970 to 1976, a school and college captain in diving, swimming, water polo, and gymnastics, an All India Inter-University diving champion from 1976 to 1979, a bronze medalist at the National Springboard Diving Championship in 1978. He also qualified for the Commonwealth Games in Edmonton, Canada in 1978. He was also nominated as an All-Southern Conference diver, USA in 1980. Among his many serious sporting interests are First Division League cricket, golf, tennis, badminton, rugby, rifle shooting, apart from being a serious rock climber and a mountaineer. He started his sports casting career in 1982 at the 9th Asian Games for the National Network of India and carried on to become the most respected multi-sports television commentator and anchor of the country. His versatility and knowledge about various sports can be gauged from the vast repertoire of major international and national events that he has commentated on and presented for various major television channels. These include cricket, swimming, diving, water polo, hockey, football, to name a few. A long-standing sports management career peaked with the creation of Mashal Sports Private Limited, through which he conceived, founded, and conducted India's biggest and most successful sporting revolution, the Pro Kabaddi League. Also known as the voice of Indian sport, he continues to work as a sports anchor and commentator, a sports management professional, and a voiceover artist. He regularly hosts award shows, corporate events, lectures, and he lectures on teamwork and leadership. We now request our distinguished guest speaker, Mr. Charu Sharma, to deliver the address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ketan. Thank you. Let me get into some of these other things that keep creeping up on a computer, which I'm not too familiar with anyway, because I'm a little tech illiterate. But thank you, everybody. Isaac, Gitanjali, where are you? And of course, Gaurav for starting it all. Thank you very much. I think we've taken enough time from our 1 hour session, so I better get to it quickly. You know that prayer right at the top. It's obviously there for good reasons and happy reasons, but it just set me thinking that all of us have, and I say this because it's my folly, it's my flaw. I tend not to prepare for such conversations because the last thing I want is some kind of repetitive, classroom kind of situation. And my favorite example is, everybody, you're all here. Please open your books to chapter 4, page 93. No? Well, that's fine, because there is no book, there is no chapter, there is no page 93. It's just we're having a conversation. We're all trying to learn from each other. We're trying to utilize our experiences, put them all together in a cauldron, and try and get the best product out of it. That one drop that comes out to precipitate, it should be possibly the cleanest, best possible way, universally acceptable way of going forward. And yet, of course, there are many streams of innovation, many tangents that burst through, and all of that is what takes the world forward. Now, even that prayer, obviously it's something very ancient, and I'll spend a few seconds on not the prayer, but the fact that, people tend to yearn more and more so as they go on in life for something that they, unrequited matters, which they have wanted, loved, but couldn't. And I'll say this has got nothing to do with that session, that my unrequited passion is that you hear that voice and you say, oh my God, if I could only sing. And I've often said that I would be glad to trade every single thing that I am, that I have become or have done or shown or achieved or whatever, I'd trade it all in a second if I could sing one song well once. But no luck. So theek hai, agle janam mein. Now we'll see. But back to the concept of the prayer, it's obviously all about things that have come over perhaps thousands of years, the concept of it all. And in many ways, pardon the blasphemy if there is any, I beg your pardon. These days there's so many thin skins floating around, you don't know, who's going to take umbrage to what. But but in many ways, the world of sport is similar in that it is ancient. Competition is very ancient. You go to the ancient Olympics, prior to the birth of Christ and so on and so forth, thousands of years. And a lot of those concepts remain the same. And what are the ancient concepts of sport, which is what we lead our sporting lives with? And I know I'm not talking to a bunch of sports persons, I'm talking to management graduates, but or to be graduates, but in many ways, the basics, the core values of the world of sport, let's call it the world of sport, not competitive sport, remain the same. And therefore, translate that or push that wider into our own worlds, whatever the worlds may be, because all the worlds collide together. We don't live in ivory towers, we're all similar things. I mean, sports is a microcosm of life itself. So those who understand the values in the old world, requirements and purity of sport can understand how it translates to life. I hope that's easily understandable. And I'd be very grateful if who are Mr. Mathur and company, just give me these 3 or 4 values that you feel are ancient and never dying and permanent and universally accepted in the world of sport and therefore in our lives as well. And if you can interact with me and give me just 4 or 5, then we'll move on. Otherwise, I'm quite happy to be sitting around and, shooting the breeze. So come on, guys. Ketan, you can begin. There's no rocket science. It's not a complicated quiz.
It's the ability to never give up.
Okay, one. Next.
Hard work.
2.
Teamwork.
3.
Passion.
4.
Respect.
And so on and so forth. Absolutely. A great deal of honesty and fairness. Yeah. Truth with yourself, with everybody else around you. A show of great camaraderie, and so many other, we can go on and on and on. And many of them they'll mingle into one giant kind of concept. That's what the sporting heritage is all about. And I, for one, I don't want to sound old-fashioned. I think it still means everything in the world of sport to understand those values of sport, absorb them, and then display them not only in sport, but therefore in life. And I think all our problems will find reasonable, optimal solutions if we just understand that history and heritage of sport. But we're here to talk about innovation. And I think one of the many things that we learn along the way is that can something be done better without losing the traditional values of sport? So that's a big key. We keep everything good about the world of sport. And then we say, okay, how can we do this better? What does better even mean? So let's give it some other words. Can we do it more efficiently? Can we do it more effectively? Is it more suitable for the contemporary times? Is it more suitable to the visibility of the sport in terms of television or now many other mediums? Is it better for the sports persons? Is it more fair to all, et cetera, et cetera? And that's what leads to innovation. These days, we often use innovation only in one sense. Is that technological innovation in sport? Of course, that's a very major angle, but there are many other kinds of innovation as well. In terms of rules, for instance, or in terms of benefits for players. This concussion rule in cricket, for instance, I mean, now the world's finally realized, there's a very popular joke about the head being more important than other parts of the body. So it has to be protected, but I won't go there. So now if you get hit on the helmet, the batsman just shrugs it off in cricket and says, let's get on with it. But there is a rule now, which is a good rule, that the doctor will come in and they will check you and they will see 4 or 5 signs about whether you're okay or not. And if they're not completely convinced, you will have to step off and then you can come back. Now, all these are, it's not exactly an innovation, but I'm just beginning with it because there is no chapter 3, page 96. We're all just having a, good time here. And that's why it's beneficial. Now, television doesn't like it because it delays everything. But except for that, it's a good human value to interject into the world of cricket, where you say, well, hang on, let's talk about safety first for the players involved. We can't take their word, I'm okay, let's carry on. Because sometimes this whole concussion thing comes a little later. So too in football now, if there's some clash of heads, they stop the game regardless, because they want to make sure that that aspect of safety is looked after first before the game carries on. So just off the top of my mind, something that I want to talk about is innovation is not just technological innovation. It's everything that can be beneficial for taking the sport forward. And a lot of it, yes, is for, well, there are many angles involved to the world of sport, as we all know. There's the players, there's the management, there's sponsors, there's broadcast, there's, all sorts of angles that make up a sporting event. And in each area, and of course, the most important angle of all, spectators/viewers, as in fans, because ultimately, if we were playing sport in the middle of a jungle, not really caring about who's watching, who's not, I think that sport will die or only be popular with the 15 people who are playing that sport in the middle of the jungle. So ultimately, everything prospers because of a larger number of people liking that sport, following that sport, which leads to many fabulous circles that, because sport also requires commerce, as we all know. Everything in life, sadly, requires commerce. And commerce tends to follow numbers. And when they say, oh my God, there are not 20, but there are 2 million or 20 million, 200 million people following this. So I'm going to put some money into this sport. And the circles become wider and wider and bigger and happier and happier. Well, I'm not saying happier, just bigger. Who knows, money doesn't mean happiness. But these circles do grow. And therefore, let's always put fans are a funny word because it also means fanatic, but let's put lovers of sport first, because they are the ones who really matter. They are the ones who create these big ripples in the big circles. And because of them, people play better and better. And then there's more television, there's more visibility, so everybody works a little harder. Then there's more money, so everybody works harder still in terms of playing the sport, and so on and so forth. Okay, I'll take a breath here. But Mr. Mathur, this is sport. It's been my life, all my life. And one of my many cliches is that I was born a sports person. I am still a sports person despite my torn shoulder right now. Gosh, it's terrible because I can't play anything right now. It's very frustrating. And of course, I'd like to die as a sports person. So it's my life. I sort of fell into a sporting tub, I suppose, when I was born. But I would really love to talk about what people want to know more of, because I can go on now and talk about 15 other innovations or 25 or many more, all of them beneficial. I can give you the Pro Kabaddi story, which of course will take about 5 days, and we have only about 40 odd minutes. So, there are many stories. What can I share with you? All I can say is that a lot of if I can use the term, please permit me some immodesty once in a while. A lot of the success of the Pro Kabaddi League in Kabaddi, as you may or may not know, if you don't follow, I'll be sad, but if you do, I'll be very delighted. I'm plugging for it. Has become India's second most watched sport from the get-go, from when it started on the 26th of July, 2014. And that's the date I hold very special to my heart, because I knew the minute we are on air, it's going to do really well. How well, who knows, but it did really well. And that's exactly what happened. It was a transformation. It was a fabulous revolution. And I'm so glad it worked, because basically it's a DNA matter. I don't know how well it's going to do globally. It will eventually, because it's a very elementary and easy sport to take care of or introduce or do well in. So it just requires more effort from, I hope, other people, maybe some of you guys here, as you go into your sports management careers, because the world is waiting for it. I'm kind of a little out of energy because it took a Mickey out of me trying to get around the floor. But maybe you guys can do a lot more international work, and so we'll get to that later. But a large part of the success was because I sat down with the authorities of Kabaddi fraternity, the federations, and so on and so forth, and all those guys concerned, who were very trusting, and they said that, okay, we know you, we trust you, and therefore take it forward, rather than, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. So we brought together several, let's call them innovations for the purpose of this session, which made critical differences. We were allowed to, and that's the key, because very often people can be stubborn and say, no. Especially the sports persons are usually very loath to change, because they've been following a certain tradition. You may well notice that in the cricket world as well, which maybe most of you or more of you are familiar with, the cricketers are the first ones to say, no, must remain the same. What is this new? What is this change? People are very sort of afraid of change. But if you look at it from the outside, or all you management people must certainly have the ability to look at, as they say in management jargon, I've learned a bit myself in the last few years. If you look at it from 100,000 feet, that's when you kind of realize, hey, hang on, this is great, but it could be better, or it could be more suitable to one angle or the other. Like I said, there are many angles to sport. And that's where you try and make some changes. And it takes time, and therefore it takes patience and perseverance. So that's another aspect that one needs to develop in life, like you do in sport. You can't win everything, you need to be patient. Anyway, so I'll talk about one or two of those innovations because they were very critical to the success of the Pro Kabaddi League, which is not the only sport. I can talk about any sport, anything you guys, wish to talk in just a couple of minutes. One of them was that the Kabaddi fraternity was very happy with not maintaining any, well, it's not a huge innovation, but stay with me. They said something very relevant when I had gone to do the Asian Games first in 2006, where this whole thing was, this whole storm started brewing then, because I realized how powerful the sport is. And I said, hey, listen, I'm doing this world feed commentary for Kabaddi at the Asian Games in Doha, and I need some facts, I need some figures, I need some data, I need some background, I need some history. And all of them looked at me and said, well, it's great to have you, but we don't have any. And I said, what are you talking about? I said, who are the better raiders here? What is the percentage? And what is, how many points do the defenders get versus the raiders? And, I wanted all of this to be able to talk about it. And they turned around to me and told me something very delightful and yet scary, saying, but Charu sir, Kabaddi is a team game. So I said, so we are concerned about only the team score. We don't propel any individual forward or any other statistic. It's just the team. The team does well, we win. The team doesn't, we lose. I said, well, that's a very big concept, a very high, noble concept, but I'm afraid we need a little more. So that's when we started thinking and so on and so forth. Eventually in 2014, when we were allowed to do the Pro Kabaddi League, the first thing I said is, let's develop some statistics for each individual player, because the youngsters particularly love to follow the stats, and stats make a big difference to people who follow the sport. And you don't want to look inside, you want to look outside. And I said about 10 minutes ago that fans, people who follow the sport, are the biggest commodity that you have. If they grow, then you grow. Otherwise, you stay where you are. You can play in the middle of the jungle and enjoy yourself. So a whole lot of statistics were manufactured. Apart from that, of course, to make the game more interesting, this whole raid, and I don't know how much you know about Kabaddi. If you don't, I beg your pardon. I won't go on and on about it. Just another maybe a minute or so. There's a raid and there's defense and so on and so forth. So when you raid, of course, people try and capture you and you come back and so on. So the raids were very often, if a team led, say 19-12, then the team that led 19 would go on empty raid after empty raid. They'd just go waste their time, say, waste their time and come back, because the team that's behind would just get frustrated because, where's the opportunity to cover up? So we said, okay, let's borrow from other sports. Let's do the right thing. And we put in what's essentially a shot clock in basketball. Here, a raid clock. So all raids were under the clock. So you gave equal opportunity for both teams. If I was up 19-12, I'd still be a little wary about the fact that, okay, I can only raid for 30 seconds. I need to be back if I don't get an additional point. So either try and get an additional point, so I get into more dangerous situations and maybe get caught, or I come back quickly because the time is up and the other team has an opportunity, many opportunities to try and get up on the point. So it's just a little something that, was very important for us, because it just took the game a notch further, where there was this urgency in terms of timing that was introduced. And of course, I can talk about many other things, but that's one, which was very beneficial. I'm very conscious of time racing by. So Ketan or whoever wants to take charge, Anjali, whoever, you're the boss. Of course, okay. Isaac, I beg your pardon, but Isaac, how it is, we're always the boss. So anybody who wants to sort of come in with something or the other, there's already a question in there, but I'm not going to curate if one of you people can. And
so Kahan will be curating the Q&A. So Kahan, please take over.
Thank you so much for your enthusiastic and vibrant talk. It was a pleasure hearing your energetic points. So we have a lot of questions from all our students which are lined up in the chat box for you.
That's what I want. Yeah.
I will be asking you a few of them. So the first question is
one sec, just before that. And I don't mean questions exactly, because I'm not like some wise old whoever person who's come down from heaven to us. I mean, we can just have a chat, and you can give me a comment, or you can say something which is new or whatever. So question means that I know and you don't know. Sorry, I mean, you guys know collectively a lot more than I ever can. So it could be a comment, or it could be just whatever else. A question's fine too. Just want to place that before you.
Yes. So the first question is by Mr. Dipankar Behra. So his question is that is about esports, and what are your views on esports? Can esports viewership generate revenue in India in the coming future?
यार शुरू में मार डाला. Now, all of us have assets and all of us have our liabilities. Sometimes assets turn into liabilities and so on and so forth. I remember an old quote from some unknown, very often in the world of philosophy, the unknown philosopher. Unknown philosopher a long time back. There was a famous quote from my college at St. Stephen's, says, "Whereof I do not know, thereof I do not speak." So esports is like a complete nothing. I have no clue what the damn thing is all about. For me, sport was all going out there and busting gut in as sensible and smart a manner as possible. Working hard, busting. Esports, when you go, I don't know what you do. All I know is that for the last 20 years, my kids are, in their mid-30s. All my battles were related to get off the damn console and go out and play. So now esports is a big thing. People are earning all sorts of, major earnings and livings from it. It's the new thing. What can I say? That life has passed me by. I'm not going to now, I don't want to be a stick in the mud, but I'm not going to now school myself in the whole concept of esports and do whatever it is. Yes, it's a big thing because everybody is on E. Unfortunately, so are we right here. I'm not, in your classroom talking to you and sharing a great vibe. We're on this goddamn machine. Everybody is on a machine. So if machines are so big in our lives, then obviously, depending on how many people have machines, everything that we do on machines is going to get big. This platform, Zoom, is huge because it can take care of, I don't know, millions of people from around the world rather than one classroom where we're sitting and doing what, 40, 50 people. So yes, in keeping with the traditions of the current contemporary world where machines are big, esports will be very big. It'll attract a lot of attention and commerce from people who do machines. Who do machines? All the software people, all the hardware people, they do machines. They will be delighted to promote their products through the whole concept of esports because it's a fabulous mesh. So yes, esports is going to be very big in terms of e-following. People can just log on and just sit down and watch, I suppose. And it'll be very big in terms of sponsorship because all the e-people will be very happy to support esports and there'll be a big community. It may not seep down to a lot of other parts of the population because I do think it has a certain niche appeal. And I say that because I think I'm a pretty big follower of sport. I follow everything. I can't follow e-sport. So it'll have a niche appeal, and all you guys who are very computer savvy will certainly veer towards e-sports. I don't think the average Indian, I say the average, please forgive me for saying this, third world country citizen is not likely to take very heavily to esports. But for instance, ultimate frisbee or skateboarding and stuff are also huge fads. Millions of people following it. But it's very difficult for me to say that it's going to be global because there are many parts of this world where we struggle for different things. We're not into e-lives. And those for whom e-lives are not big are going to be very slow to warm up to esports. But I think there are many people who are still already very deeply into the e-life. Those people will very happily suck in esports. So it's going to be big. I'm not a part of it. It's a little late for me. But good luck to all those who are. I just want to say one thing, which a lot of these esports people came to me as well as the Kenyan sister did it. I said, listen, yaar, I think the one angle which a lot of people may eventually suffer from is IPs. Because in the e-world, everybody does whatever the hell they feel like. So I'm saying you guys better be careful. There's no federation, there's no structure, there's no pyramid, there's no global, then, because everybody's going to compete with each other saying, who are you, buddy? You say you're the Esports Federation of India, forget you, I'm going to do my own. So I think there's going to be this multiplicity, and therefore a lot of confusion, and therefore a lot of fighting, therefore a lot of legal cases as they go on. That's just a caveat.
Thank you, sir. Now the next question is from Pooja Mutha. So in season 8 of PKL, there's an introduction of a new rule, and we'd like to hear your thoughts on them. If a raider is out and there is a successful tackle, do the raiders team get points for the same?
You'll have to rephrase. The Raiders out. And there's a successful tackle to the.
Should I
You have to
mention
be-
it, sir?
Yes, please. We're going to read it out.
Yeah,
There's only one introduction, but let me see who's getting that right.
So basically, my point was like in season 8, we have seen this rule before we don't have it. So if a raider goes for raid and there is a successful tackle, and before that, a raider makes himself self out. He is a self out. So the raiding team gets points. So I'm just confused, like how it is possible. According to me, it should not be there. But I just want to know.
Pooja,
Yes,
fabulous,
I
yeah. You actually follow the game, or you just read this somewhere and you follow
So
the
I
game?
follow the game.
Arre
we
wow,
follow.
yeah.
She's an avid sports person.
Okay.
Yes.
So we had a big discussion on this. I don't want to let you into too many secrets, but the deal is that earlier, in the act of rushing, this happens only in the lobby line, okay? As you know, Pooja, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So when the defenders, antis as they used to be called, defenders, I just drop this word antis, yeah, just get defenders, the whole world will know.
Yeah.
When they are chasing a raider on the sideline,
Okay.
and the raider says, let me suck them in and just quickly step out. So I'm self out, but they'll also be drawn out before they tackle me. So I'll get some of the defenders also out. What is the timing of such an act? To my mind, to our mind, it is a microsecond.
Yeah, correct.
Now, if a defender has hurled himself towards the raider, as they do in the push, what are the chances, like a cat or the proverbial cat, that he can turn midair and come back into the court? Nil. So why are we punishing defenders for chasing a raider to basically get him out, to collar him, to tackle him, and he just puts half a foot out? It takes a microsecond. You're punishing the defenders for nothing. Their intention is very pure. The raider's intention is not. Now, you may say this has been a rule since the last 894 years. But please go back to what I said maybe 25 minutes ago and say, can we make it better for the sport? Can we make it more universally acceptable? So to our minds, there was a very thin line between the referees also. How much load do you want to put on the referees? Did he step out deliberately? Was he pushed out or not? Was there a little bit of contact? We'll be going to the third umpire or whatever the hell for 40 times a match. So we said, let the defenders have the benefit of knowing that you are honestly attempting to tackle. And if the person steps out thinking that he'll draw you out, sorry, we don't want that in our sport again. Because it's very tough. If you play the game or if you know the game, to step back once you're rushing. So we said, fine. A lot of people said, no, but it's a tactic. I said, but it's a tactic that is not fair, because a defender cannot then come back. Once you're beyond 30 degrees, you can't come back. You have to fall. So that's why, Pooja, we decided, okay, let's make it more fair as a battle between a raider and a defender, so that a raider cannot misuse, as maybe once in a match, or once in 100 minutes this happens, or even less, maybe once in 2 or 3 matches. But let's not punish the defenders for the raiders' malintent.
Yeah, so but I just found like sometimes when we are defending, if we are a defender, but we don't understand exactly, like our attention is not towards their legs. We don't know like they have been self out or not. So at that time, I just felt like, so I just wanted to know your thoughts. Like,
but these are my thoughts, that the raider must have an honest raid.
Yeah, correct.
Must go there, raid honestly, come back honestly, not suck somebody into a challenge and then quickly step out. Then it's impossible for a defender to get back, and you're punishing a defender for a microsecond act.
Correct.
So therefore,
Thank
do
you so
forgive
much.
us in case you don't like it, but I do forgive us.
I just want that clarification, and I
Okay,
really
sure.
got now. You explained. Thank you so much, sir.
So the next question is.
By the way, sorry, Pooja, there was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of no, but this is always how it's been.
Yeah.
And I raised my hand and I say, I had a little bit of support, but I pushed all the opposition. I said, let's all grow up together. Let's all make the sport more understandable and more easy to follow and more honest.
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is by Bevan Verghese. So his question is a bit more management related and academic related. Can sports management graduates like us be able to help the Indian sports industry grow? And if so, how and where do we start?
I would like to remind you. Sorry, who asked that?
So, Bevan Varghese, you might.
Bevan. Okay, Bevan. Do you remember a person called Galileo?
Yes, sir.
And what was he infamous for?
Astrophysics.
Pardon? Somebody tell me why he was ostracized in his time.
So he conflicted with Aristotle's ideologies, and he said that the Earth is flat.
That correct.
Yeah.
So he said the Earth is round, and people said, "What? Are you mad?" Sports management, for the moment, the Earth was flat. In that, who the hell needs sports management people? It's changing. And you guys are amongst the first few, in the last few, maybe 10, 15 years in our part of the world, where sports management graduates are now being understood to be better equipped as professionals looking into the world of sport than people who are just from the world of sport or who are walking from other trades. So yes, there's a distinct advantage to being a sports management graduate because you have understood. It's like a management graduate, an MBA. Why is an MBA in the late 70s, early 80s? I'm sorry. Many of your MBAs don't even have to raise your hand. I can see it on your face, which is fine. But in the late 70s, early 80s, people like me who are non-MBAs used to say, "Ye kaun aa gaya yaar? Main aapko kya samajhta hai?" But they were preferred. I mean, they were certainly given more weightage, more and more so. Now, of course, you can't do without them. As people realize that, I think they're better prepared. They have a little bit of experience. They're better prepared. They will take less time to understand. Their grasp and boxes that they make to problem solve, etc., is more structured. So similarly, in the world of sport, sports management graduates will more and more find their places in the sporting sun. As more and more people realize it's a bigger industry. We can't treat it like some, what word should I use? Some disorganized industry where it doesn't matter. But these guys, these graduates, help us save time. They get better solutions. They are just more optimal in their viewpoints. So there's no doubt in my mind that sports management graduates will be better suited for managing sport in our country and everywhere around the world. Of course, in the developed world, it's already happening. In the what should we call India? Now, people might take umbrage when I say, third world or poor country, this and the other. But, look around you. Yeah, we are a poor country. So it'll take time for sports management graduates to be deeply and fully appreciated. I don't want to, give you have you wear rose-tinted glasses that as soon as you step out, you'll be snapped up by this, that, and the other. The world of sport in India, the Indian sport world, is growing fairly rapidly, but still a little slowly, because what does any world require? It requires commerce. And the commerce in India is still very heavily skewed towards cricket. So cricket then, because there's so much commerce in it, pays well, employs more people, and so on and so forth. But there are 50 other sports that require similar kind of handling. They will take longer. And if you want to only go into the world of cricket, then there's also a lot of competition there. So you might be better served to go look after some other sporting needs, where sadly, the compensations, the remunerations are going to be subdued to begin with. So after saying all of this, I don't want to confuse you. I just want to say that yes, there are growing opportunities in the world of sport, where the sports management executives will be, sports management graduates will be preferred over the others. And all you have to understand that sports is still considered a passion area in India. I think that may have been a question for some other people. And if I had more time, maybe next when we meet in your classrooms, Anjali, Isaac, then I will do a little Professor Giri, if you don't mind.
Yes, definitely.
Right now, no Professor Giri. Right now, all I'm saying is
certainly.
Thank you. I've invited myself. So Gaurav, please note, if you're still here, unless you run off somewhere to your many duties. But the world of sports in India is now on a lower remuneration scale because it's still considered a passion area. I'm passionate about sport. I hope all of you. And therefore, I'm doing sports management to sort of buttress that passion, to help it. And now I want something to do in the world of sport. A lot of youngsters come and tell me, and I feel for them, but I also encourage. Mujhe kuch sports mein karna hai. I said, yeah, क्या कुछ करना है? मतलब किधर जाना? Because there are many verticals in sport as well. The only downside of sport is the fact that, as is in any passion area, in that there will be a very large number of people who will not be paid very much. And that is because you want to display your passion for that subject, and the people who employ you say, "ठीक है, passion है ना, आजा काम कर ले free में." So there's a dissonance between passion areas and earnings. Now, if you are, I don't know what, mechanical, I don't know what, electrical engineer, doesn't mean you're passionate about electricity. I'm not so sure. You just become an electrical engineer, but you get remuneration over employment and this and that and what have you. Structural engineer building some, flyover somewhere and whatever, you'll get very well paid. I don't know if it's a passion area. Sports, music, etc. Passion areas. So people say, chalo, our economy in this sporting business is a little low, it's growing. So then we work for lower wages because after all, remember, it's a passion area. You love what you're doing. So just remember that. Hopefully you love what you're doing and you'll say, TK, I'm getting a lower salary than my other, half as smart as me friend who's become some chemical engineer. He's gone to, work for some petroleum company and making big petro bucks. And I'm sitting around here next to a sports field doing well. So please don't have these comparative, frustrations. But it's a growing field. Yes.
This is a very interesting point, Charu. I remember this movie called Anupama, in which Dharmendra is a writer and he's asked, "Aap karte kya hai?" And he says, "मैं लेखक हूँ." नहीं, आप लिखते हैं, लेकिन आप करते क्या हैं? So
I've been asked that all my life. My father was saying, "यार, कैसे काम चलेगा?" I said, "Don't worry, I'm okay." I say, I'm a commentator. Oh, लेकिन आप करते क्या? But anyway.
What you said is a big deja vu for all of us, because a lot of us have come from the industry for the passion of being with the younger,
all I can say is the older I grow, the more sort of muphat I'm becoming. So one has to call it like it is. Yeah. So I hope you people forgive me for, if it's not a fabulously rosy picture, it is the picture it is. Right.
Okay, we have an alumni also who's joined in, Charu. He's quite 2007 batch, Nikhil. Nikhil, would you want to ask your question directly?
Yes, sure, ma'am. And thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm Nikhil here. So I always face this question many times when I get into some teaching or discussions, that how important or critical it is, or maybe not critical it is, for a sports management aspirant to have being, having an experience of playing a game or having a liking of actually being on the field. Is it really mandatory? Does it really impact? Or how do you, convey your thoughts on that front?
It's like a cricket coach. If you're a cricket coach and you haven't played to a high level, people are always going to think lowly of you, So there are, in the world of cricket, for instance, since most people may follow it, people always weighed on kitna khela hai. So if you've taken 150 test wickets and somebody is your coach who's taken only 75 test wickets, which is a lot, you said, "Tere ko kya malum hai, tune kitna khela." So that's a natural problem with everything we do in life. I mean, if you are a structural engineer, I'm way beyond my brief here. I don't know what I'm talking about, but if you're a structural engineer and you are you've done some structural engineering from, I don't know, which is the finest engineering called Cornell, and you come in and you're building some bridges in India, some guy 50 years old, sorry, everybody else who's a little older will come and say, "Kitne bridge banaye tune yaar? Bada aaya hai, the Cornell se." So all this will happen in life. And you've got to just be smarter. Yes, I firmly believe that if you make an effort to look the part, it always helps. So if you're a sports management professional, Nikhil, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Nikhil?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Nikhil.
So Nikhil, if you work hard at looking the part, I think it's always a plus. Because one of my favorite sessions, which all of you are lucky, I'm not wasting your time on this one, but next time, Isaac, Anjali, Gaurav, next time, my topic is everything matters. That's my topic. And I come and talk to especially youngsters or just anybody who's in front of me saying, please understand the concept of everything matters. Because too often we take refuge in this whole concept of I'm this, I'm a sportsman. मैं तो स्पोर्ट्समैन हूँ जी, मुझे क्या मालूम कि किस तरह क्या करना है या टिकट कैसे बुक करना है या जूम कैसे खोलना, मैं तो खिलाड़ी हूँ जी. So, to take a narrow sense. So, the wider sense of the world is everything matters, Nikhil. And therefore, if you work hard at looking the part, at being fit, at being strong, at being somewhat able in some sport or the other, I think the level of respect peripherally grows. There's no point arguing that I'm a professional. So what if I don't look like a sportsman? I've never gone to a sporting field in my life. There will be, because we're all human. No? So other humans around you, there will be an erosion of belief. Saying, what do you know if you haven't really been there? But if you can do a bit and you can prove that I'm still fit, I'm still fond of every sport, I'm not sort of tunnel visioned here, I know much about many sports, so I've done this, I've done that. I think it'll be a little easier for you to get the kind of respect that you obviously deserve. Should it be related to only how much you've paid? Of course not. But we are humans and we are fallible. And therefore, you have to please understand that subliminally, that does work in people, in the minds of people. So there's no harm working hard physically as well to look the part and to increase your knowledge of play by actually picking up a racket or this or that or whatever. No harm at all. Don't say, I don't want to do it because I'm a professional sports management guy and I don't have to prove anything. No, there's no harm. So pick up some additional skills. It always helps. It's like saying I'm a sports management professional, but my language grasp is weak. So, suppose I can't speak well and I don't know this language, I don't know that language. So, at least I'm a professional. But language helps, no? It's the means of communication. So the better your understanding and grasp of the language that you want to communicate in, the better the chances you can be a more successful professional. There's no point saying I've done my sports management graduation. Mere ko language mein kuch matlab nahi. I will speak only in Odia. So let's all, have wider perspectives in life.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you so much. A big takeaway for me and for, I'm sure, others as well. That intent part really makes sense.
Yes, you're very kind to say that. Now, this is not, I'm not coming down from some hill with a commandment and all. We're just having a chat. And all I say very often, and I might have said this right at the end, I'll say it now, that, in this whole session that we're doing, if there's some one word, one phrase, one thought, one something that resonates with you, vibrates with you, I'll be a very happy man. And of course, different people will have different words and different phrases, different concepts vibrating. But if any one thing does, we would all utilize this time well.
Thank you.
So we have one question by Mr. Anmol.
Only one more. The problem.
So there are quite a few actually.
I'm just kidding.
One more is in the next one. So his question is that you have had a long-term association with sports like cricket, whether it be as a commentator or as the CEO of RCB. How difficult for you was it to make a transition to Kabaddi, and how exactly did you vision starting a promotion like promotion and event like Pro Kabaddi League, keeping the fact in mind that it has deep roots as far as it goes with the Indian culture, and the major concern is target audience for promoting a less aware sport at that time?
Right. So my typical response to such a question is, which is very long and convoluted, is, can you repeat that? but I won't say that. I've always been multi-sport. So I think that's a major asset for me, because I just talked about wide perspectives. When you follow only one or two sports, you tend to get too deeply involved, and you tend to, there's a lot of idolation there about this is the sport, and people don't appreciate. I mean, suppose there's some other sport, let's take some other sport, I don't know, archery. I mean, you're following sport and you say, it's so tough, and man, these guys are such heroes, and they scored 100 there. And if you don't appreciate just what's required in archery, the kind of level of fitness, the accuracy, the calm of the mind, there are lots of fabulous, subtle things about archery, then to me, you're losing out in life here, because you've invested so heavily in appreciating one sport that you've completely forgotten how to appreciate the rest. I mean, if you're so interested in appreciating computers and you don't find time to appreciate flowers, you're losing in life here. So it's the same thing. So I'm very multi-sport. I appreciate all sports, and there are so many different subtleties, and there's some different kinds of hard work in different sports. I have had no problem transiting from one sport to the other personally. So I'm happy to be involved with any sport. And that's one of my mottos, by the way, any sport, anywhere, anytime. But anyway, so my transition was easy because I appreciated what Kabaddi was all about. Just like, what is my favorite sport right now? Golf, for heaven's sake. What does that have to do with Kabaddi? Probably nothing. Or tennis, which are now more age appropriate for me. The tougher part was convincing the larger section of our urban elite population. You see, there are many Indias, as you know. I love the sounds of the bird at the back, by the way. Whoever it is. It's okay. So here we are with a sport that somebody just said in that part of that question was, it is our own heritage sport, or it's our own Indian sport, or whatever the term was. But let me be more accurate. The true blue, ancient, unique heritage, competitive team sport of India has only one claimant, Kabaddi. People may say, no, what about wrestling? And I say, yeah, sure, there was a lot of wrestling in ancient India onwards. But guess what? It was shared by many other cultures as well. Roman, the Greeks, every other culture had wrestling. So the only true blue, unique Indian sport, ancient heritage, team, combat sport is Kabaddi. So it's a part of our DNA of people in this part of the world. I mean, what was India? Who was India? 5,000 years ago, was there in India? I don't know. But this part of the world, I'll say, this was a major tradition. So it's in our DNA. And therefore, it lies deep down somewhere inside all of us. In a large part of the country, it's to the fore. It's in the front. People go there. People appreciate Kabaddi. There's a large crowd. There's just a fabulous atmosphere. In some parts of India, the elite urban youth, whose parents are elite urban commercial leaders, so they're very important because they're the ones who spend the money. This sport had lost its respect because it had become their sport. Unka khel hai, hamara nahi. Now that was a major, major perception wall to break, and many other such walls. And therefore, the whole concept of getting the Pro Kabaddi League going was really tough, because the kind of battles that one had to face to break down those, are all those walls broken? No, but at least some walls, to try and get the attention of those who are now leaders in India in terms of entrepreneurship or commercial leaders, and their children who follow only, yo, Chelsea man, so it's like, for them to understand, I'm sorry, I don't mean make fun of most of you guys who are doing yo Arsenal or whatever, but for heaven's sake, what about your own country? What about your DNA? What about your own sport? Because if we are not proud to support our own aloo paratha or dosa or whatever the hell it is, then who will? Why must everything come from outside? And say, oh man, this dosa, what a great thing. Oh yeah, let's have a dosa. Come on. So luckily, there's a strong new nationalist flavor in our youth. And that was a great help for them to appreciate the game, saying, oh yeah, it's ours. Because people used to go to the Asian Games, Kabaddi is an Asian game sport. India has come back with gold. And people said, no pride, yeah, in the fact that you got a major international medal. For heaven's sake, for years and years and years, for instance, America went to the US, went to the Olympics and got gold in basketball. They didn't go back home and the public said, who else plays anyway? Forget it, yeah. People are very proud of their country's achievements. Why should we not? The people are very proud of their own sport. Who the hell else plays American football? The Americans are crazy about it. Which is the biggest sport? By the way, here's a quick quiz question. Which is by far and away the biggest sport in the most sporting nation in the world, Australia?
Rugby.
Rugby.
Somebody said something, which is the right answer, but I'll wait another 5 seconds.
Surfing?
I'll finish my tea in the meantime. This is a sports management setup. So you guys, you're all on warning.
Is it NFL?
There's no NFL, there's AFL, Aussie rules football.
Aussie.
Yeah? Okay. Aussie rules is by far and away, the biggest sport in Australia. And Aussie rules player comes to a cafe, people say, oh my God. Pat Cummins will go to a cafe, people say, how do I, go, order karna. So I'm saying that is what Aussie rules in Australia is. Does the Australian public really, do they come out and say, who cares about these Aussie rules players, bloody fools? Who else plays Aussie rules? Nobody else, right? So why should we bother about them? No, they're very nationalistic. They love the sport. They don't care about who else plays. American football, they don't care about who else plays. They go to the Super Bowl, which is coming up now, and they are mad keen about it. So here we are in a country such as India, just because we didn't have a sporting culture, saying, Kabaddi mein kaun si badi baat hai, who else plays? So there was a lot of disrespect that had flown into the game. And that was my biggest challenge. Not apart from many other challenges, but like I said, this is not a PKL session, so I'm going to avoid all the rest of the challenges. But for me, there was no psychological barrier. Like, oh my God, what am I doing? Trying to promote Kabaddi, because I thought it's a great game. I knew that the combination of a sophisticated Kabaddi offering on television will do very well. That's what it did. Of course, people can say that, don't be arrogant about it, but I mean, I knew that's why I pushed so hard. I put all my life's work into 4 years of making it happen from 2010 to 2014 when it actually did happen. But anyway, it was not a problem. A lot of people did say, Charu Sharma pagal ho gaya. Yaar, wo kabaddi ke baare mein aake baat karega. Just tell him I'm not here. But that's okay.
So we have a question from Amok Darekar. So as we know, in certain team sports, there are individuals who get fans involved because of their personalities. So getting to see these individuals from a different perspective, like something which is behind the scenes, what goes on in the training and lifestyle, as something which would excite someone as a fan. So even though the fans are able to see most of these things about specific celebrity sports people, I would put it as. So even though we can see them on YouTube videos or interviews, is there anything more which we can get for fans?
I think only gradually are sports persons in India realizing that fans are important. Earlier, till even 10 years ago, the average Indian sports person didn't give a damn about the fan. They said, listen, my sport. Remember I was talking about the fact that main to khiladi hu. No, but you have to do some media interview for the fan. Yeah, it's right, main to khiladi. Now people are realizing, sports persons, that, they're an important commodity. And we got to have some vibrations with them. Social media has done a lot in that score. Lots of other fan clubs and professional sport in that league sports have also made a very big difference, because league sports, each team is trying desperately to draw more and more fans. The biggest challenge for the sustenance of league sports is the fact that each team or each league must have a very large number of ever-growing fans, because, once the event is over, what then? For 10, 9, 8, 7 months of the year, what then? So this whole fan league business connection is very important now. And all the players are realizing, oh my God, I think I need to step out a bit and interact, even though it may be on just a machine and not personally, because a lot of them are socially awkward, because they've been tunnel vision since the age of 9 or 10 or 11, just boom, that's sport. So they haven't grown in other areas in life, and they haven't listened to my Everything Matters lecture. So, I'll save it up. So, they're a little afraid of the average citizen, because somebody may come and criticize them, or they'll say, are you criticizing me? How many wickets have you taken? So it's a hopeless battle. No fan can win the battle about have you played more than me. And you'll find very often sports persons still saying stupid nonsense like, I don't really care about what the fans say and what the media says. I do my own thing. And it's just lack of maturity. It'll happen more and more as we grow up, because you're not playing for yourself, for heaven's sake. You're playing for the whole universe of that sport. And people will gradually realize more and more. I don't quite know what the rest of your question was, but also the fact that each individual is unique. We all know that. And much as in the world of sport, a lot of common elements are present. All of us need to be honest and, understanding and following rules and all the rest of the things that make up sport. But we have to find ways of expressing ourselves as an individual within the boundaries of the rules of the sport. I think this whole business of, I'm going to be a badass, I'm, just going to do whatever I say and have Ben Stokes as my favorite friend is bad news. I'm sorry, cricket fans will understand that, and those who don't. So, Cody's best friend being Mr. Stokes. So all these things need to just be understood better by sports persons as they rise in their careers, that they are also responsible to their fans in creating the right kind of constant role model ambassadorship that is expected from top-level sports persons. I know I sound a little old-fashioned here, but really, the value of good behavior on field and off the field as you grow up is a very essential sacrifice for people who work in the world of sport. Perhaps, I don't know this world, but I'll say, for instance, the world of professorship. Professor Saab is also here, and Mimsab. You have to sacrifice. If you are involved with institutional progress, if you're a teacher, professor, whatever, you can't. Okay, you're an individual, do what you want, but you have to stay away from epithets, for instance, or bad words, or bad behavior, or some loose behavior, or bad dressing, or whatever. You have to stay. It's a sacrifice. You may feel like wearing just a cut-off banyan and come and lecture in class. You can't do that. It's a sacrifice. Because you need to just play the part. I think sports persons too need to more and more realize that. They are beginning to. They also need counseling, a lot of training, a lot of lecturing about everything matters. That, for heaven's sake, understand that there's a certain line and no more. But where's that line? It's not strictly marked at times. Of course, there are many fines, and they take the fine. Yeah, take $20,000. I'm going to do what I feel like doing. I think that's very short-sighted. But because they're not told all these things and trained in all these things before they become big. Once they become big, a lot of people are afraid to go and tell them, hey, ye nahi karna, wo nahi karna, because maybe it's become too big for you to go and tell them. So at the junior levels of sport, these other aspects of sport behaviorally should be a very important part of their training, not just, the sport or, a raid or, letting fly an arrow or throwing a whatever, your own sport. These other aspects about sport are not looked at enough. And my favorite word, amongst many other favorite words, is counseling. Because we don't counsel enough. And then the next thing you know, some sports person's going to make some silly error, behavioral or otherwise, or doping or some nonsense. And then somebody should have done that earlier. And constantly, like go practice every day. Even in the world of Kabaddi, I was telling all the team managers and others, I said, every week you have a behavioral session with your players. And they will listen from here. It's like, I've heard of it enough. Haven't you practiced enough? Don't you run or do whatever the hell you practice for your sport all the time? This is also an essential ingredient. It should be done all the time because it's all repetitive. Yes, it's repetitive. If you're doing free throws in basketball, it's very repetitive. But if you're also being lectured about don't do this, don't fall into that trap, it's repetitive, but it needs to be done because over counseling is better than under counseling because once a guy makes a mistake, there's disgrace all around. A long rambling answer to, I don't know what the question was, but yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering all our questions extremely patiently and in
my
detail.
God, time flies.
Well, now I would like to call my batchmate Ali to propose the vote of thanks.
Oh, wow. Khel khatam ho gaya. Chalo. One last question, one last comment, something. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, sure. Anyone else?
So there is one question
from ladies only. Otherwise, I'm sorry, no, because they are 50% of the world. I'll wait.
So whoever wants to ask a question, I shall leave it open to you.
You can raise your hand and ask any of the girls.
Okay, we'll wait 10 more seconds. If you want to play shy, play shy. Then somebody else can answer.
Radha Iyer. We have Professor Radha Iyer.
Professor Radha Iyer asking the question.
Okay.
Yeah, hi. Hi. I put the question, but I don't think they picked it up.
Hi. Gosh, terrible.
Yeah, terrible. So also I must say I'm a prof, so so I'm faculty, academic, etc. But I have a question on indigenous sports. So you spoke about Kabaddi, right? So what are the others? So I teach a course on entrepreneurship. So I'm always thinking of new ways to tell the students that maybe this is a sport that you can look at, or this is so yesterday in the class I have told them कि जैसे Kabaddi indigenous sport है, वैसे there will be some other indigenous sports which probably have a good future. So what according to you is that? That's my question.
Well, I've been asked that several times because yes, there are other indigenous sports, but remember there's a very fine line between being ridiculed for what you're doing and being appreciated for what you're doing. Now, I was ridiculed enough for Kabaddi, which is an Asian game sport. It's not just an indigenous sport. It has grown over the years to cross many boundaries. Are there other sports that have crossed boundaries? Now, it's not essential that other countries play that sport, but it may be essential to know that that sport has done well enough to grow. Because, as I said right at the top, it's one thing to have traditional rules and boxes around the sport, but has that sport evolved into being something that is more aware of how do we take care of the fans and the people around us and all the rest of the boxes, that the verticals that every sport needs. The obvious first sport indigenous is Kho-Kho. A lot of people said, why don't you promote Kho-Kho? I said, well, it's not done enough on its own yet. And let me take a bit of a breather. But already there are people who are planning, Kho-Kho as a major sport in India. And good luck to them. They're facing the same set of problems I did for years when I was promoting Kabaddi, which kind of cleaned me up on my energy front. So that's one. But there may be others. And there are other sports that grew up in India that have gone international. I mean, in a very small sense, you can talk about snooker or even about polo or about a few other sports that, people thought are very indigenous or endemic to India and have gone elsewhere. Or other sports where India were early global leaders. So there are many sports that, can require additional. The biggest mystery is hockey. Now, hockey is not an indigenous sport. It came to us in the mid-19th, say around the 1840s, 1850s from Britain. It's a Brit sport. And it came here, we adopted it. We did so well because a lot of parts of the world were not playing it well enough. And Indians were just naturally gifted with stick work. So we did very well till the rest of the world opened up to the new part of cricket, hockey, the innovations in hockey on AstroTurf and what have you. So India once again lost its preeminence. Thank God we got the bronze again in the Olympics. So hockey is something that a lot of attention can be paid to, without doubt, because, I mean, it's, again, a part of our DNA now over the last 150 years, whether we like it or not. And because also a major international sport. So like the Odisha government is doing some fabulous work for hockey. I'm so proud of them because, I mean, they've decided to take it with both hands and push it forward here. Because, the world could use leaders and whatever other indigenous sport you pick up now. For instance, Frisbee, ultimate Frisbee from the US is threatening to get to the Olympics, for heaven's sake. I mean, you can just call it a stupid little American fad, but they've, crossed many boundaries and they're knocking on Olympic doors. So similarly, there are many sports in India which require a lot of internationalism, meaning growth. So when you promote in India, it has to be something with a grander plan of taking it to more nations, just growing it rather than being content. Okay, this is it. Well, it's our own sport. Let's promote it. You might say that I'm going against what I said about the AFL. They haven't really gone to too many countries, but that's their problem if they're happy with it, being only Australia. But yes, there are many other indigenous sports. You guys can come out with it. You have to realize only one thing, that in every such enterprise, there has to be, my favorite phrase again, brutal honesty. You have to be so brutally honest with yourself about where is the sport now? What can we do? What kind of commerce has come into it the last 10, 15, 20 years? What kind of commerce do we need to take it forward? We cannot keep comparing it and holding it against different, apples and oranges, saying, well, the apple's done so well. What the hell? What about the orange? I mean, cricket's getting, each player's getting 18 crores. So must my Kho-Kho player. Yeah, must understand the box, the commercial box which you have right now, have a plan for it, take it forward. Yes. But a lot of such sporting ventures have not done too well or collapsed because there was this, mildly, if I can use the term, and I beg everyone's pardon, there was some delusion on the part of those who tried to organize these sporting events about, oh, if they're getting that, we can also get this. No, you got to realize where that sport is, what is possible in the first phase, this whole installment plan, and be committed to it. Because if you have a wrong set of figures in your mind about growth, then, it's going to crash, it's going to frustrate, it's going to disappoint. There'll be all sorts of, distressing situations because one has not been honest with oneself. So, but I mean, that's a bigger lecture in terms of promoting and getting the entrepreneurial model for different indigenous sports, because they all have, yes, they have to have a beginning. But what is the plan for taking it forward needs to be very carefully structured, very practically structured.
Thanks. Got it.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
I just saw a note at the bottom here, which said that thanks. You didn't really answer my question, but it was a decent insight. Now, if I didn't answer your question, I beg your pardon. Can we go back to it? Because I don't want some.
No, I'm sure the questions are answered by you.
अरे यार लिखा था उसने कि हम भाई हमारा question का तो answer मिला ही नहीं, लेकिन कुछ और मिल गया. Are you happy with that? Whoever asked that question, I've forgotten now. If you don't, well, we can go back. If you can ask me just in very short.
Yes, I'm happy, but I didn't got the answer which I was looking for.
तो बताओ ना question क्या हुआ छोटे में.
Basically, what I wanted to know that since we have personalities in like I watch football, so as a fan I want to see what goes inside the training of these footballers or these athletes. So what are your plans, or what would you do in the future to install these things along with Pro Kabaddi?
So there
It's
are two
specific
things
to Kabaddi, yeah.
It's actually behind the scenes, Charu, I think.
Yeah, sure. Not just Kabaddi. I think it's true for every sport. There's something called strategy and tactics. And a lot of professional players hide their practice sessions because they don't want those publicized. Whatever you're doing in training, whatever you're doing behind the scenes, you want to make sure that the public sees as little of it as possible because it is a competitive world. So the team has certain tactics, so the player has a certain tactic. They actually don't want to share that too much. They don't mind sharing various ha stories, what's your favorite color, or black, whatever, that's fine. But in terms of training techniques, please understand that a lot of professional sports persons are made aware right from the start that, listen, you need to protect your IP. And their IP is their individual ability or their tactic or a team tactic that's coming up or whatever. So when you say there should be, I don't know if I'm answering the question again or not, but when you say we need to know more about the training of these people, except for standard stuff like, pushing a tire and, pulling a rope and stuff like that they don't mind publicizing. Anything more than that is really called a trade secret, a team secret.
I would give an example. So
am I getting a little closer or not?
Yes, you are.
Oh, gosh, okay, what a relief.
So an example would be I was watching this YouTube video from Bayern Munich, the Bundesliga team in Germany. So they had basically they had all their players and they played like contests with them. So obviously we didn't get to see their training, but with the organized or like the event which they organized where they were playing certain games, so we got to know about them, like we got to know some insights.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Now you see, the more mature a league, the more they will put out such stories, especially because social media is so easy now. Earlier you had to find television channel to show all of this. So there's no doubt that in a sport like Pro Kabaddi as well, I mean, what about cricket? I mean, they have such a massive leadership in India, and they have, in terms of time, money, everything. Yet they don't put out enough such stories. They're a little protective. They're not understanding, as I said right at the top, they're not understanding that the fans really are the number one commodity to take that sport forward. Yes, in Kabaddi, I'm not that closely involved anymore because I'm not involved in any executive manner. I'm only, on the board and stuff. So teams, because remember the Pro Kabaddi League is now all teams. And you can't dictate to a team that you need to do this. They say, hey, excuse me, it's my team, I'll do what I want. So many more stories need to be put out. I think the teams, you're absolutely right. Sorry, what's your name again?
Amog.
Amog, you're absolutely right. The teams need to be doing a lot more to share their internal journeys and stories about each player or together, or some of their former players, some of the new players. I mean, there are a million stories waiting to be done, Amog. Maybe you can go to one or all of these teams and say, hey, listen, there's a market for all your stories. People would love to listen to hear, to see. So why don't we do these stories? I think sports in India is still at a very immature level. It'll take time for people to understand that, yeah, by sharing, they're not really losing anything. They're only gaining. Right now, people are not working as hard. Remember, it's not a full-time, 100% full-time job because, the leagues are not like an annual affair. Even the IPL, it's only 1.5, 2 months. And then what? People just sit around drumming their fingers on the table, ab kya kare, because there's nothing to do. But these initiatives are the ones that can last the whole year when you do background stories. So you're very right. I think that much more needs to be done. When a league is mature, it's easier. And in immature league setups, I think they're more concerned about the basics, roti kapda makan, rather than doing something which is more, they're not even looking now to see what more do the fans need. So Amog, you're absolutely right. There's a big need. It will happen. I think it'll just take a little more stability and maturity of sports in India for them to put out more background stories like Bayern.
Absolutely. The bang on, absolutely bang on, no doubt about it. If you see any of those matured clubs and things like that, they all got into a very different kind of a, it was not promotion, it's basically, you know, actually leveraging their equity.
Yes.
And therefore, you know, talking to the fans in a very significant manner as such. So that's, I think.
Just one question, Charu, apart from sports, what is it that you really enjoy? What is it that you like doing? We don't know about Charu.
Look at me. I enjoy everything because
Everything matters.
Everything matters.
well, somebody who's listening. I enjoy everything. I mean, my interests range from anything to everything. I must admit, even as I say that, I have a couple of areas where I'm a little, you know, for instance, technology. It's passed me by because I'm essentially an outdoor kind of guy. I like to go out, play, do this, do that, meet people. I don't know, whatever, anything and everything. I'm not a foodie. I don't drink at all. But I like to know about wines, about, you know, spirits and what have you, these fancy liquors that people, it's just knowledge. Why not? Because everything is worth it. How much of our brain do we use? The mind's already decaying, but how much do we use? 3, 4, 5%. What the hell is the rest for? So learn about everything. Be interested, be curious, everything. Flowers, trees, the outdoors, the mountains, the seas, everything. So I'm sorry if I'm not ducking a question. I'm being as honest as possible. You talk about anything, Anjali, I'm interested to listen. And I eventually hope to be I think I am a better listener than somebody who speaks because you learn so much more. So the true answer is everything. But, you know, of course, sport primarily, the outdoors. I went for a trek 3 months ago, despite the hurt shoulder, up to the Himalayas. I used to climb a lot, mountain climbing. We go on lots of travel journeys, the wildlife, forests. We have a coffee estate in Coorg, so a lot of, you know, other, I mean, I'm a part planter in my head. Picking's going on right now, so I need to get to go. Somebody said, what's the future of adventure sports in India? Well, one word, safety, safety, safety. Adventure sports grows where there's a much higher level of safety. So unless we get our safety rules right, adventure sports is going to remain where it is. But already there's a little more sport climbing. I think we've got a lot of talent in India without doubt. We've got the big mountains, we've got the oceans. How much of the seas do we use? A huge coastline. Do we have any kind of ocean sports or water sports? No, nothing, minimal. There are 2 or 3 surf schools. So there's much more that needs to be done. My best friend is running an adventure travel company in Delhi because we used to climb together, my climbing friend. But it's a limited business. And only now are Indians getting more adventurous. Only now are mothers saying, chalo jao karo. Earlier it was, oh my God, you know, kahan jayega, gir jayega, mar jayega. So adventure sports is inherently a little dangerous. And over many years now, Indians have been a little loath to, you know, go on an adventure. Kahin kuch gadbad nahi ho jaye. Hi, mera bachcha. So, you know, I mean, we've got to let that go. And that's when adventure sports will grow. Now mothers and others saying, go play cricket, yeah. Earlier it was, are you mad? You know, I mean, go study. So it's all related. And I know we've run out of time. So I'd love a much longer one on adventure sports. But sorry, I've just given you an inkling that yes, it's happening more in India now, but we need to set many more safety bases and rules. You might say we have the massive Himalayas, so much snow and all that, but our mountains are not like the Alps, where there's a lot of valleys with a lot of snow. And the snow is much longer. Our snows are much higher up, you know, 15,000, 18,000 are snow line. I mean, for heaven's sake, Mobla is 15,000. And all their snow is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,000, where it's not a danger to the human body. So there are many complicated situations, which I'm sorry, I'm running short on time, but that's a little touch point on adventure sports.
Okay, shall we invite Ali?
Ali?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So thank you, Mr. Charu Sharma, sir, for such an informative session. And it was great to know about how data analysis, statistics, and raid clock introduced in Pro Kabaddi made Kabaddi more interesting for the viewers. And the analogy you made of Earth to the sports management and using innovations in rules and safety for players, not just technological. And I'm pretty sure the students found it interesting as well. So, sir, it was an honor for us to have you here. And you certainly made the session even more gripping by the way you brought clarity on students' thought process. So we all hope that you continue the excellent work you are doing, and particularly from the sports management batch, we wish you take the indigenous sports to newer heights. Thank you once again, sir, for taking out your valuable time and enlightening us. It means a lot to us, and we would love to have you here once again on the topic Everything Matters.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Ali. Very kind of you. I'm glad you seem to be listening.
Brilliant session. Personally, and we would want you to come more often than perhaps what you think. Okay.
My time has no value. I'll be there. You say it now. I'll be there.
We want you.
But very kind of you. Very kind of you to be there. Now,
it'll be a pleasure and it'll be a pride.
Thank you, Ali. I say it with all honesty. My time's more or less over. Your time is now. For all of you guys, I wish you luck. Go, Ali. Everybody else, go take the world by storm. Work hard. All those old values we were talking about, they're all still very relevant. But but they are more relevant to me than anything else, because I'll end on this note. Maybe I already ended some time back, but I'll end on this note. But old world values are still very, very deeply appreciated by everybody else around you. You may not think so, but old world values. What are old world values? All this business about honesty and ethics and doing things the right way, whatever social mores are, very important. All the rest of his success, it'll come and it'll go. But those core values are very, very important. You might say, I'm sorry, a Buddha lecture, but it's very important for me.
Yeah.
So for me, for nobody else, please stick to those old world values. Be as honest as you can. Infuse a lot of ethics in everything that you do, because eventually that is more important. So I'll end with I don't remember too many quotes, but I'll remember one because it suits me. So if you have a good reputation, nothing else matters.
Yes.
If you don't have a good reputation, nothing else matters.
Definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
And a special thanks to Gaurav Karir, sir, for arranging this session.
Yes.
And we would like to extend our gratitude to our coordinators, Professor Isaac Jacob, sir, Anjali ma'am, Milind, sir, APD, sir, and the whole IT staff and PR team, and everyone who gave us constant support and helped us in making the session a success. Thank you for being a lovely audience, and we hope to see you soon.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody. Yeah,
Gaurav, would you just like to say something?
Charu, bear with me just 15 seconds. So last November, me and the other students were, the management of sports leagues and teams, and we were discussing PKL, the success story, and I gave them a project to do also. I thought, and the students thought that, can we have a talk with Mr. Charu Sharma? Can we ever have from his, mouth that how this all happened? So we said, yeah, let's do it. Let's see. I sent out the vibration to the universe, and we met in Pune, remember, just last month, and you were there for the Masterstroke Open. I was there for the AFC Cup, and we were at breakfast, and I just said one line, I am taking these sessions at Somaiya and would like to, just have a talk. You did not take a second to say yes. And today I'm so happy that this session came through and the students had a good time, a valuable lesson from you. Thank you so much, Charu.
Most welcome, Gaurav. Don't sell me short. I need to be there and talk to you guys in person.
Yes, absolutely. And one last, we just want to take a picture, Charu, with you.
Yeah, with all the students.